When was the last time they checked the UPS system?
2 years ago, when they changed the batteries.
2 years is too long.
So kala namin, the first defect was the UPS. So yun ho una lumabas, but then troubleshooting occurred until they found out na yun hong circuit breaker pala ang nagkakos ng shutdown.
Pagkakalam namin, UPS ang nag-malfunction.
Yes, sir.
Ngayon sinasabi mo, circuit breaker. Are you incompetent?
I apologize, sir.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
We begin the newscast with the Social Security system and its plan to implement a law-mandated premium hike this year. Here's what we know. The SSS contribution hike is provided for under Republic Act 11199 or the Social Security Act of 2018. Under this law, a 1 percentage point increase in contributions is imposed on members every 2 years, starting year 2019 until it reaches 15% by 2025. This year, the contribution rate will be at 14%, up from the current 13%. The minimum monthly salary credit will also be adjusted to 4,000 pesos, while the maximum is being pegged at 30,000 pesos. Employers will also be shouldering the 1 percentage point increase in premium rates. Former SSS CEO Michael Regino earlier justified the higher contribution, saying it would help boost benefit disbursements. Regino says that as of last year, disbursements to members were up nearly 40%, while maternity disbursements jumped to almost 80%.
Meanwhile, the state insurer will likely push through with a premium hike under its new leadership. Former GSIS President Rolando Macasait formally took over as SSS chief, replacing Regino. Macasait has yet to formally face the media, but has told reporters in a message that the agency will most likely continue to implement the law, raising member contributions. Several groups, including the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, have been urging the SSS to defer its scheduled premium hike. President Bongbong Marcos is also being called to step in after he ordered to suspend PhilHealth's premium rate hike.
Now, to share with us her insights on the scheduled contribution hike of the SSS, Congresswoman Castro. Good evening. Welcome to the big story, Congresswoman Castro.
Thank you, Robbie and Gretchen. Good evening.
Ma'am, if this is not only programmed but in fact mandated by law, do we really have any options here? Does the SSS actually have that option to defer?
Well, if we are going to look at the scheduled premium rate increase, it says here that 1% increase will be shouldered by the employer and that the employee will be the same, no? Yung 4.5%. So, I think this would have an indirect impact to our employee. And of course, yung impact on this will be impacted on the MSMEs. So, tinitignan natin, Robin, na if we are going to suspend this, yung mga MSMEs natin na affected ng pandemya and still recuperating from the economic crisis would be benefited from this.
Okay.
And also for the employee, indirectly, so for example, if the corporation would like to have an increase in their, for example, in their benefits, this would be used in their benefits.
Okay. PhilHealth has deferred the rate hike, even Pag-ibig. Now we're calling on the SSS. Until when do you think until when are you proposing for this deferment to be?
Yes, since in the schedule, the rate is the same for the employee, 4.5%. An increase for the employer for 1%. So I think hanggang 2024 kasi if we are going to defer that kasi yung ang maapektuhan lang naman dito ay yung employer.
Now, but you noted...
Until our until we can have a stable economy, no, kasi makakatulong din ito makatulong din po dun sa benefits ng ating mga employees.
Ay, malinaw naman po yung benefits ng mga employees as you pointed out. But the SSS is also pointing out higher disbursements, especially over the past year. Can the SSS afford this?
I think so, Roby, no, kasi yung SSS should be efficient in collecting, no, yung mga premium, lalong-lalo na, Roby, yung mga companies or yung mga enterprises na hindi nila nakokolektahan. So until na maging efficient sila, no, doon sa pag-collect noong mga contribution nitong mga delinquent na mga employer sa pagbabayad ng SSS. So tingin natin makakapag-adjust.
Okay, so you're proposing change in focus in terms of collection. Do you think this deferment will somehow affect the revenue pool of the agency, given also that we're facing inflation and several other economic problems?
Yes, no. I think the SSS should be refocusing on how to be efficiently collect the contributions of other employers. Na marami yan na determine natin during the hearing, no, kung gaano karami yung mga employer that should be that should pay regularly the contribution for the SSS.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Congresswoman Castro. The Senate is also conducting an inquiry into the air traffic shutdown that affected more than 50,000 passengers on New Year's Day. Civil Aviation Authority Director General Captain Manuel Antonio Tamayo was questioned for providing two different explanations on the cause of the shutdown. Tamayo initially said that the problem was caused by issues in the system's uninterruptible power supply, or its UPS. But recently, Tamayo also said the cause was a defective circuit breaker. Senator Jingoy Estrada questioned Tamayo and why Tamayo was only able to disclose this clarification on January 9, 8 days after the incident.
Pagkakalam namin, UPS ang nag-malfunction.
Yes, sir.
Ngayon sinasabi mo, circuit breaker. Are you incompetent?
I apologize, sir.
After 8 days, bakit ngayon nyo lang nalaman na circuit breaker ang may diferensya?
Hindi po. If I may, we found out on the same day. Kaya
On the same day?
Yes, sir.
Ngayon lang kayo sumulat, wala bang proper maintenance ang circuit breaker?
Minimum maintenance, actually. Ang ginagawa lang ho ng mga technicians dyan is to check yun ho mga nuts kanina na nakita natin. They make sure it is tight.
Public Services Committee Chairperson Senator Grace Poe, meanwhile, focused on issues with the air traffic management system's maintenance. Poe noted that 2 years ago, its contractor, Sumitomo, had stopped conducting maintenance checks on the system as the warranty lapsed. CAAP said their technicians are capable of taking care of the system, but Sumitomo says it is best for CAAP to hire third-party experts for the system's maintenance. In the same hearing, former Transportation Secretary Art Tugade denied reports that he had diverted some 13 billion pesos allotted for the maintenance of the air traffic management system.
Wala hong na-divert pagkat ang project ng CNS-ATM is what we call a loan-funded project. Kahigpit-higpit ho ng JICA. Wala ho sa amin yung pera. May proseso ho dyan kung kailan i-release. Rini-release ba yung pera sa DOTR? Hindi po. Rini-release yan sa mga kontraktor.
Aviation in the United States is also facing a similar issue. Over 10,000 flights in the U.S. were delayed and some 1,200 were canceled from late Tuesday to Wednesday due to a system failure. To address the issue, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration imposed a nationwide ground stop, forcing a halt to all of the country's departing flights. The FAA computer issue prevented airports from filing updated safety notices that warn pilots of potential hazards. The cause of the problem remains unclear, but U.S. officials say they have found no evidence of a cyber attack. It took a few hours before the problem was resolved and flight operations resumed. Airline officials expressed confidence that normal operations could largely return by Thursday, U.S. time. U.S. President Joe Biden has also ordered an investigation into the outage. After the break, the peso continues to strengthen against the dollar, reaching the 54 level this week, its strongest performance in 6 months. We'll discuss this with One News business editor Regina Lay when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
It was on my mind all night, like it was but we're still caught up at the night watching the news, waiting for an update, which was unprecedented. You always get an update, and we didn't get one. I finally fell asleep 1 or 1:30 without an update. Someone had mentioned about his charity, and I clicked on the video where I think it was right after college. He was talking, he had the little kids with him and that type of thing. And so as soon as I did that, then I started Googling chasing M's and that type of thing. And I just knew right then it was something we had to do. I didn't know an amount or how we were going to do it.
We're very excited for him to see and be able to start developing the plans of what he wants to do with the money. I mean, his brand, Chasing M's, is incredibly important. I mean, that's how we met.
We have fans all over the country, even outside of our markets. And with that comes a responsibility to give back and to use these moments, often tough moments in time and challenges, to impact our society for the better. And this situation will follow that track record that we have of doing such.
When he wakes up and gets back to being tomorrow and sees over $8 million, he's got a lot of planning to do, and it's just going to be good vibes everywhere.
You're watching the big story here on One News.
The Philippine peso continues to claw back losses from last year as it again strengthened on Tuesday, breaking through the 54 peso to the dollar level. Data from the Bankers Association of the Philippines shows the peso closing at 54 pesos and 87 centavos to the US dollar after closing at 55 and 11 centavos on Monday. This was the peso's strongest level since June 30 last year when it closed at 54.97. From then on, it steadily began to slip before closing at a historic low of 59 to the dollar on October 3. As of Thursday evening, the foreign exchange rate between the peso and the dollar is now at 55 pesos and 29 centavos. Joining us for our discussion on the stronger peso is One News business editor Regina Lay. She's joining us via Zoom. Welcome to the big story, Regina.
Hi, good evening, Robbie. Hi, Gretchen.
Last year, when we were talking about a weaker peso, a lot of people were saying, don't call it weaker, it's a strong dollar, and so on. So I don't want to characterize it, notwithstanding our introduction, that it's stronger. But what's driving this performance, this trend in the peso these past days?
Well, Robbie, tama naman, no? It's the same as what caused the peso to drop, which is to say the U.S., right? So the U.S. Federal Reserve, I think the expectation right now is they're gonna start to slow down the pace of interest rate hike. That was the root cause. That's what drove the dollar higher last year. And so conversely, this is what's making the dollar weaker now. So on the other side note is that's what's making the peso stronger. The bottom line kasi is inflation in the US has also started to ease up a little bit. So may breathing room na rin yung yung US Federal Reserve. Apart from that, I should also point out that the Bangko Sentral here has also been intervening in the market to help prop up the peso. When I say intervening, it means they've been buying dollars on the open market, right, using the country's dollar reserves. So, and also, we're just coming off December, which is the peak month for OFW remittances. So that also helped prop up the local currency.
But does all of that mean that the peso is in the clear? Because, nung December, I still remember talking to some economists, some economists even saying, no, parang baka mag-senior citizen pa yung peso. I remember that very clearly, and some people were really hanging on to that. Does that mean that this trend will continue and that this is sustainable, especially given BSP intervention?
Naka, Robbie, I will be the first to tell you, when it comes to the market, there are no guarantees, right? Especially less so in the world of foreign exchange. You know what? Last year, at this time, exactly a year ago, we were at just around 51 level to the dollar, if you can remember that. So malayo pa tayo doon. What I can say, though, is that this year, officially, the expectation is for the currency to range between 55 to 59, right? So we're close to 55 right now. But when you think about it, 55 to 59 is still a big range, right? So what they're saying now is that importers should try to take advantage of this slump because it's likely only going to be temporary. Going into this year, there's a lot of uncertainties as well. There's the prospect of a recession in the US and Europe. And of course, the big one, we don't know when this war in Ukraine is going to end. And that's relevant because that impacts the oil markets, right? Which in turn impacts our fiscal position. So I guess the short answer is don't hold your breath, but this does give us a little bit of breathing room.
Pretty much unpredictable what's happening, you mean.
Yeah.
But the World Bank is also saying that the world is perilously close to a global recession. Where is the Philippines in all of that?
There's been a few analyst reports that have been issued recently, which paint a better picture for Asia Pacific, I have to say. And a big reason for that is there's optimism that with China's reopening, it could shore up the economies around the region, like us. We rely on trade with China by a lot, right? So there's a report from Moody's Investors Service, that came out recently that said that Asia Pacific should be spared from a recession this year because a lot of the countries in the region are still their economies are just reopening and they're only just they're strengthening at the moment. So there's every reason to be hopeful that even if there were a recession in the U.S. that it shouldn't impact us in a big way. But again, that remains to be seen. There's a lot of uncertainties at the moment.
But when China reopens, that also means higher pump prices?
Could be, because that's actually a good connection to make, because remember there was very little demand from them last year. So now that they're reopening, there might be a surge in demand from China. But then again, the U.S. could be slowing down as well because of high inflation, prolonged high inflation, right? So it's a balance. Everything in economics is a balance, right? So it could balance it out, right? With China's surge in demand. And again, there's that positive bit where you think about, okay, at least trade could come back in a big way. Exports could come back, right? And which is something that our own economy really sorely needs at this point.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your analysis. One News business editor, Regina Lee. The Bureau of Customs said it has confiscated over 153 million pesos worth of smuggled red and white onions from China. The BOC said the Manila International Container Port Customs Intelligence and Investigation Service found the onions during a spot inspection of 7 containers at the MICT. The shipments were all consigned to Seaster Consumer Goods Trading and were originally declared as fish balls. The BOC said 2 of the shipments contained fresh white onions, while 5 had fresh red onions. The cargo has now been seized, and the consignee is expected to face charges.
More provinces in the Visayas and Mindanao are flooded due to the heavy rains brought by the low-pressure area and shear line. This bridge in the Tumaga village in Zamboanga City was washed away by the river. This also made it difficult for rescue teams to reach stranded residents. Severe flooding was also experienced in the Samar provinces. In northern Samar, several areas have been flooded for 2 to 3 days already. A state of calamity has already been declared in Gandara, Samar due to the flooding. Meanwhile, more rains are expected over the next few weeks as Pag-asa senior weather specialist Chris Perez said that the La Nina phenomenon is expected to last until February. The above normal rainfall conditions these past weeks have been attributed to La Nina.
Batay sa account ng mga matatanda na na-interview natin kagabi, no? Siguro sa loob ng dalawang dekada, ito yung medyo worst dahil sa lalim at saka sa tagal, no? na nararanasan natin yung mga pagbaha.
At inaasahan natin na itong La Nina posibleng magtapos sa buwan ng Pebrero at onwards ay makakaranas tayo ng neutral ENSO condition or yung normal climate condition.
As for the current LPA affecting the Philippines, Pag-asa last spotted the weather disturbance 130 kilometers east of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur. Moderate to intense rains are still expected in several parts of the Visayas and Mindanao.
Just how bad was the flooding that hit many areas in Visayas and Mindanao? Well, here's the story of a mother and daughter who got swept out to sea by floodwaters and how their survival is nothing short of a Christmas miracle. Mobile journalist Yeda Pascual with the details.
For many families in Visayas and Mindanao, last Christmas had been a traumatic experience, as rains triggered flooding and landslides in several areas. Some, like the Lomo family in Misamis Occidental, welcomed Christmas Eve with their home being swept away by flood. Crystalline recalled how she cried for divine help to keep her family alive, after she and her 3-year-old child were swept out to sea.
Hinihingi ko po sa Diyos na sana hindi na niya kunin yung mga anak ko hanggang sa yung anak ko, ma'am, tinawag niya ako, ma'am, sabi niya, mama, tapos nakita ko yung anak ko, ma'am, malayo na talaga sa akin.
Like a scene from the movie Titanic, Crystalline and her daughter clung to a plywood board which used to be part of their house. On Christmas Day, Crystalline received something of a miracle.
Sa awa ng Diyos po, ma'am, may dumating po na bangka, ma'am. Hindi ko man po yun hiniling sa Diyos, pero dumating po talaga yung bangka na parang may nagmamaneho po.
Crystalline and her daughter stayed on the boat for a few more days waiting for help. They resorted to eating fruits and raw fish that washed near their boat and kept hydrated by drinking both rain and seawater. After 2 days, they were rescued after drifting near Lanao del Norte. Crystalline was reunited with her other child. However, her husband did not make it.
Nung nakita ng asawa ko na inanod kami, nadala kami sa baha, ma'am, doon po, tumalon po yung asawa ko, ma'am. Tumalon siya para sinubukan niya kaming iligtas.
Crystalline and her children are now striving to get back on their feet. But she admits that this is easier said than done. For now, they are staying with relatives. The national government has vowed to provide continuous help to victims of flood-hit areas in Visayas and Mindanao. Aside from financial support, the government said it would arrange the resettlement of affected residents. Mobile journalist Yeda Pascual. We are One News.
Right after the break, Miss Philippines Celeste Cortesi channels Filipina superhero Darna at the national costume show of this year's Miss Universe pageant. More details on that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Winning money. Well, I would like to win the mega tonight. Just might be your day.
I mean, you can't win if you don't play. That's the motto. If you don't play, you won't win.
The IRS can have serious consequences. Oftentimes, it begins with the IRS.
A ideia de criar um memorial sobre essa violência que sofremos, para que nunca mais, aconteça de novo. Isso é um tesouro artístico, o tesouro do povo brasileiro. Isso é um pertencimento da nação, do Estado, e que precisa ser respeitada a sua integridade. Então, a violência é muito desrespeitosa e profunda.
You're still watching the big story here on One News.
For Ginebra and Gilas fans, here's some good news. Justin Brownlee is now a Filipino. Republic Act 11937 grants citizenship to the Ginebra import, and it was signed today by President Bongbong Marcos. Brownlee's naturalization is seen as a big boost to the country's basketball program, especially when he suits up for Gilas Pilipinas in their FIBA World Cup campaign. All that Justin needs to do now is secure a Philippine passport. It's good to go.
And before we go, the night wouldn't be complete without pageant news. Philippine Beth Celeste Cortesi makes a bold debut at the Miss Universe preliminary competition. The 25-year-old took flight on the Miss Universe stage with her national costume embodying the Philippine superhero Darna. Now, aside from the iconic red and gold costume, Celeste also walked the stage with an intricate headpiece and metalwork accessories. Her choice of national costume got the support of none other than the family of comics writer Mars Ravelo. Celeste also sizzled in the swimsuit competition, donning a cape she designed with children in Marawi. She also made heads turn with her celestial blue evening gown made by Philippine designer Oliver Tolentino. The Miss Universe Coronation Night will take place Sunday, 9 a.m. Manila time.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. I'm Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.